Supermarkets. Germans take fewer showers. Prices up 22%. Indonesia banning edible exports. Corn hitting $8 first time since Supercycle 2012. Easter prices up. IMF warning social unrest across the globe. Food, the culprit. USDA lowest good to excellent condition in over a decade. And why all the fires at food processing facilities across the United States? It seems the world's for sale. We're under siege. Listen to this. Studies show our mental health changes based on how many or how few wrinkles we have. Anti-aging companies prey on that, but many of their products don't work because they fail to target the root concern that contribute to wrinkles. The true way to attack wrinkle concerns is by going underneath the surface of the skin in ways to promote youthfulness. This is why I highly recommend Multi-Collagen. This amazing product helps restore skin's youthfulness by getting to the root problem that causes the wrinkles. It works because it's a health supplement, not an anti-aging serum. My skin looks better than it has in years thanks to taking it. Supercharge your collagen intake because collagen is the #1 protein in our skin, and it's also the #1 ingredient in this powder. And if you've been looking for a great way to improve your skin's health and youthfulness, you'll love the wonderful effects of taking collagen. And for the next 24 hours, take 51% off your order by going to healthwithadapt2030.com or click on the link in the description box below. And now on with the video. And I'm going to start you right over here, 1970s, 1980s, anthropologists working in non-industrial societies. You know, some of the more famous examples would be in Papua New Guinea. What they did was they dissected out how they spent their time. And for us moving into something very similar, we're going to start losing the necessities. Like, where are you going to get your water from? How much food can you grow? You're going to have to be more self-autonomous on repairing things. So they broke it down into time spent. And here's the full list. Acquiring materials. You're going to require more calories to do such a thing. Then tending to the animals. You know, we're talking about sheep, chicken, goat, cattle, whatever it is. And then housekeeping, obviously, childcare, agriculture. Then the cooking and the water. It's a full list, but then look on the far right there, the proportion of time spent chilling. But keep in mind, for thousands of years, they've wired this skill out. Well, we're coming into it for the first time, so there'll be a lot of mistakes, a lot of non-efficiencies, a lot of just giving up. I'm just too tired, can't do it. So this whole list being met, you're probably going to take 30 people or so, 2 people, 4 people. You're not going to meet all those needs. And just think about washing the clothes for a second. Who has a washboard and the soap for that? Because if you lose electricity, you're still going to need to wash clothes. And then you're going to need the water for that. But where's that water going to come from? And then more agitation, and you have the muscles. You won't be able to wash as much in the beginning. And you're going to break a lot of buttons, so you need to repair a lot of stuff. So again, just even, sewing the buttons back onto the clothing that are lost because you're, on the washboard. But that's a great list to look at, to start to prepare yourself, and then look out in the stores and see some of those things that you could get now to make your life a little easier. And, start that as your main list and go from there. And moving over to the Northern Hemisphere snow totals brings us almost to the end of the Northern Hemisphere winter right now, but there's a little more snow inbound, but it looks like that's above the 30-year average, 1982 to 2012, for the 3rd year in a row now. Go back through the Finnish Meteorological Institute and you can backtrack and find that same information. So Spain receiving heaviest April snowfall in 20 years. It's beautiful, it's wonderful, it's fun. And you'll have to trudge through the snow to get to a supermarket that's rationing products. Now again, this whole word rationing that's setting in. We're starting to see the change. But here's something. They're giving you a small list of what was selling out first. So the story goes like this. Spain temporarily authorized stores to limit the sale of some products to prevent sellouts. Markets under stress. Well, that under stress is going to continue these next year and a half to 2 years. It's going to be continuously under stress. So the supermarkets ran out of sunflower oil and milk. So at least you have a good gauge of, what things run out first. Obviously water, bottled water, infant formula products. And that's what I was saying. The word rationing has suddenly made its way into the lexicon of, instead of saying limit 1 or limit 2, now they're using the word rationing, especially for infant formula. That's a big thing to the mothers, like food's being rationed, baby formula is being rationed. But you get a good idea of what things are going to disappear first. Okay, the oils. I'm seeing myself, we went and bought some olive oil that was up $5 for the same bottle just a few weeks prior. If you're going to want to cook, you're going to want to think about oils for salads, keeping your brain healthy. You need the oil. You absolutely need the oil. So can you make a list of what has or is planned to go out first? If you look back at hurricanes, what are the first things that disappear off the shelves? And then you can backtrack your way back down into what you think's most necessary. And we know that the atmosphere is changing right now. Jet streams are moving. Cloud cells are going into different sectors and latitudes on the planet here. So you would expect different atmospheric anomalies, especially wind velocity or wind speed changes. So here we go, dust storm enveloping in the Arabian Sea. Now this was back in January of this year, but the intensity of it off the charts there. We saw a lot of dust storms heading west, but that happens every year. But this off of Pakistan heading off into the Indian Ocean was something to behold, apparently, turning the sky so red that you couldn't even see through it. And at the same time, surfing has a new world record for biggest wave, 115 feet in Portugal. Okay, the surfing itself is amazing, to watch somebody go down something that is almost 12 stories tall on a building. But it means that the wind is increased as well. It takes faster winds at a more prolonged duration to get these higher swells. So that's just another verification. You can look at the dust coming off Africa, or you can look at the waves increasing, or we can look at the sideline derecho winds. Wherever you're looking, you're seeing a lot more wind velocity increases. And over here to Germany, a few days back I was reporting on that German PPI, which is the producer price index, increasing 30%. They're going to have to knock everything on. So again, German inflation, 22% increase if anybody's buying. And at the same time, I was kind of shocked to see this news headline here. Germans told to take fewer showers as energy costs bite. Reduce your living standard. Hey, that sounds like a mantra we keep hearing again and again. You ready for insects? No meat. Well, let's look over at Easter. The cost of Easter increasing in the 1 year period. Beef 16%, chicken 13%, and then the biscuits and rolls at 10.8%. I really believe this is going to increase the most out of this whole list coming up next year, because when the wheat is shown to be atrocious and the yields come in really lean because they don't have the proper fertilizers, that would probably eclipse. And then the beef also and the ham, because they're reliant on the corn and different animal feed from the same grains. So all of this is just intertwined in a figure eight here. And now we have the International Monetary Fund warning that food supply shortages will create waves of social unrest. And the IMF, they don't talk much. I mean, you see some IMF headlines, but never about food. Really strange. It seems like the elitists are broadcasting their next moves. They have to. Their rule book says that. It has to be broadcast so you as a person can say yes or no to it. And on the right side here, off the Guardian, World Bank chief says food crisis, global human catastrophe. Now, that's not words I generally want to hear from the World Bank. And the International Monetary Fund saying it, and then the Bank for International Settlements, they're looking at 37% increase worldwide this year. I think that is incredibly low. Although they've told you, you were just warned 3 times by the globalist elitist strongholds in the banking. If you didn't get the message there, that was your own fault. The rules stand. They told you what was going to happen. And jumping over to Quebec, 150,000 birds and then 300 employees laid off. Well, this bird flu, I mean, they've wiped out, 8 million birds in America already? So it's called the egg apocalypse. Egg wholesale prices are up 3x, or a 3-fold increase, and eggs are going to get more and more difficult to find unless you find your local farmer in your community. And then if we jump over here to Italy, backing up what the World Bank's talking about, we got bread lines in Italy already. That's shocking. Western nation already with bread lines. And then over to oilprice.com, we got the food prices soaring. And we'll read the 3 bullet points here. Global food price hitting their highest record levels. Okay, that's going to be a repeat. Russia, Ukraine, 30% of global wheat, 20% of corn exports, and the IMF expecting 14%. Well, that's a rosy forecast right there, isn't it? So the increase in global food prices, the FAO's Global Food Index, that's just going to be a rinse and repeat. It's going to, every time you see it, it's going to be the next highest high, the next highest, the next record, the next. That's just going to be a broken record of records coming through. And, you know, this whole Ukraine fiasco going on with the fertilizer export embargoes, and then you see how much corn they export. So the planting intentions around the world right now, farmers can't get the fertilizer and herbicide they need, so they're switching crops. In that switch, they're switching away from corn into other items. Beans, let's use for the other number 2 example. Now, corn's used for everything. Predominantly, anything that comes out of a box in a supermarket is going to have some corn product in it. And you can start lining up the different ingredients from the corn starch to the corn meal, the high fructose corn syrup, and there's other derivative products for binders and starches, etc. But then you come into the animal husbandry, and we start to see a lot of animal feed is based on corn, corn product, corn byproduct, and then also ethanol. So if the world's corn is going to be reduced by 50 or 60% because the planting intention's not there, it costs farmers too much, A, the corn price is going to skyrocket, but B, what do you think is going to happen to the foods in the supermarket that require those corn-based ingredients that won't get manufactured? You know, manufacturers go, well, you couldn't get the thing. Okay, sorry for the food shortages. IMF warned you. Bank for International Settlements warned you. And the IMF warned you too. You didn't get the message? All 3 of those major institutional players that are the central banks of the entire planet, that clear for the central banks, all told you food shortages are inbound and you didn't get it. We warned you. You didn't get it. That was your own problem. There was 3 warnings from 3 different financial institutions that run the world's money, and you didn't get it at that point. That's your fault. Again, that's the rules. That's the rules that the elite play by. You can see the prices are coming in. The food shortages are going to be here, and the first shocks will occur at the end of May when they really see how much was planted of which species. And once they realize there's not a lot of corn, oh, game on. Everything's going to rise in price far more than any of these prices that they're talking about. Because the headline here from Bloomberg, corn hitting $8, everybody's like, $8, it hasn't been that high since 2012. Well, you know what? Corn's going to 20 in my opinion. $20 corn, $20 wheat, world upset, fabric of society ripped as our food non-availability, and people get really angry about that. And then we have Indonesia banning edible oil exports. I'm trying to run down more information on the final buyers from Indo. So they're the world's biggest palm oil producer. And guess who's saying that there's going to be oil shortages for cooking oils across the world? The Rockefeller Foundation. Again, you have been warned. That is the 4th major elitist institution stronghold telling you protectionist measures are coming in, otherwise known as food nationalism. And here we got Canada bringing out their food price report 2022. Now look at this. Food categories are broken down here: bakery, dairy, fruit, meat, other, restaurants, seafood, and vegetable. And the anticipated change in the upward price trajectory: bakery, that's obviously wheat product, 5 to 7%. Dairy, 6 to 8. You don't have the corn, that's going to be, you know, maybe 6-fold. Meat's 2%. Are you kidding me? You know what? They put the total increase of food prices at 5 to 7%. Canada, I want to lock that in on a contract with you. That only things that I buy will rise 7%, and I will absolutely take a forward contract for the next 3 years for that. 7% increase in my food price, sold. I'll take it, because you know anybody in their right mind is going to see a doubling and tripling of prices, and you're talking 7%. That's not fair. They're going to let their guard down by after reading this report. Oh, it's only going to rise 7%. I can handle that. I can handle a 10% rise. Not a 3x or a 300% or a 200% or a non-availability. And jumping over to data assembly, obviously they're assembling data from grocery stores and retail pricing. They're showing 31% of grocery products are out of stock. Now, this was the first week of April, and that's up 11% from November of 2021. So it seems it's more common in these certain areas. So if you're in this regional area, Connecticut, Delaware, New Jersey, Rhode Island, that kind of northeast area up there, New England states, if you will, it seems it's more pronounced. But then Montana, Texas, and Washington were up 40%. So if you're in those areas, you're going to want to get a little more prepped out, because you can already see where they're focusing a little bit of the shortages, and it should amplify. Because I can't see them just instantly switching supply chains. Like, oh, the New England area, they're getting lean on everything. Let's just detour everything coming out of the Midwest. Won't work like that. So where it's continuing to get, less available, higher prices, it's just going to amplify from here. Now, Texas, I'm getting a few reports from friends who are down there saying it's incredibly dry, windy, and they're having trouble even in a garden setting. Let alone we're getting reports from USDA talking about corn plantings. Again, it's back to the corn. The corn seed's in the ground, and it's going to be rotting in the ground because it's not enough rainfall to get the seeds to emerge and turn into the little corn stalks that you see in the beginning of the year there. That's not happening. So the loss of the seed itself, which is going to be and is right now incredibly valuable, the seed corns, but then they don't have the fertilizers anyway, a lot of places. So there's going to be yield declines anyway on an acreage basis because of the fertilizer deficiencies. But targeting on Texas, it seems like Texas is going to be focused on Texas this year and California. I'll go into California later on with somebody who's well-versed in California agriculture and dairy, who's given me a few tidbits on there's not enough feed to go around for any cattle or dairy, poultry, that sort of thing in California, because the water's not there, so they can't grow the crops that they would normally feed. They wouldn't run it by rail. They grow their own feed stocks out there and just feed it directly to the animals. And then there's a lot of other byproducts from agriculture that also get into the supply chain, but without the water, none of those byproducts are coming in either. I'll get you a little more deep in on the report, but where it looks right now, there's no denying it. Food's going to be super expensive and unavailable. Digital rationing cards by the end of the year. And look for June, the last week of May, first week of June, to be the first shock for the planet on food pricing inbound for the rest of the year. Although I will say one thing. I want to thank George Norrie and the team up at Coast to Coast AM for allowing me on last week. I did have a go-around, a little heated discussion with one of the callers. I think his name was Dan. Dan, thanks for the thoughts on that. See, he was saying that in Kansas, where he's living, they're having what he claims is the most optimal, unbelievable record yields that you have ever seen in your whole life happening right now. Because if these microclimates are growing in certain regions, so Dan, if you're listening, thanks for the thoughts, and I want to know, where you were in Kansas, what's the size of the area there? Is it a 25-mile square area that's having optimal, unbelievable record production, or is it a 50 square mile area? Like, how big is this area that's having this impeccable, amazing microclimate, ultimate grow condition right there? Because here in East Tennessee, the wheat's looking pretty good. It's about, waist high or so, but we had plentiful rainfall, and it's been real windy, so, between the rainfall and the wind, and those crops are looking really good out here right now too, but it's only in our area. So, these targeted microclimates, if we're coming into herbicide and fertilizer shortages, we should start identifying some of these areas across the U.S. and target our resources and target our supplies there. So Dan, if you're listening, I'd really like to know the size of it, and that'd be something good, because I have the GIS software to start mapping out some of these areas that might have optimal production, and then put that as a new sort of crop map out there comparatively to what just the USDA is saying. And if you want to listen to the conversation there, that was on Coast to Coast AM, and it was on the 20th, but again on the 20th, and then it turns over to midnight, and it was really the morning of the 21st from 1 to 3 a.m. talking about some of these same issues, given the forecast out through harvest season of this year. And again, thanks, big shout out to Coast AM. So growing food and getting it into the warehouses and the processing facilities is going to be a task in itself this year. But now we're starting to see massive amounts of fires and destruction and damage to these very same food processing facilities. And there is a plethora. And I started to run down some lists and find different lists that were on Telegram. Shear's Foods, plant destroyed by the fire, it collapsed, and then everybody's laid off there. Selena's Foods, total loss after a fire. So, you know, wherever we're going to put these into, and the bulk powder solids. So we find all these losses happening, and then suddenly it becomes a tidal wave. I think there's 20 plus this year alone. It's what, the fourth month? And we already got 20 of these. Maricopa Food Pantry. See, that's not a processing facility, but an area of stored food, 50,000 pounds. And, you know, it's like an ice sculpture. Sometimes you get a larger piece, sometimes you take a smaller piece, but eventually it's sculpted on purpose into the final table piece. It seems like our society is being sculpted like this as well. And it's just story after story of food plants and warehouse damage. And again, you go over to the Walmart, the consumer goods to the foods are all being affected. And then, you know, you start to really run down some of these meat processors, poultry processing from Tyson, and it doesn't matter where it's at, from Georgia to Nebraska, Texas. Wherever you look, it seems that something is under duress at the moment. So how many more of these can we take out? I mean, the Kellogg's company down in Memphis in Tennessee, that was hitting our local news not too long ago. Feed mills. And then on the bottom right, you know, talking about feed mills. Now, those were incredibly dangerous back in the day because when they poured the grain in, there was a lot of that dust that would come up from the grain hulls, and that would ignite at times. But there's been a lot of technological advances to assure that doesn't happen too much anymore. And these feed mills, explosion out of the silos that used to happen or in the facilities, those are few and far between. There's been so many safety measures put in place to assure that doesn't happen. And for a Cargill facility, I'm just shocked at that one. But it does seem our world is for sale at the moment. Money, power, and the traders who barter the earth's resources. If you want to siege a castle, take you back in, let's say, 1500s, anywhere in Europe. You were coming in, the castle was the last stronghold. How would you siege a castle? Do you remember how it went? You cut off all the food. For resupply, there was no resupply. You took control of all the fields around that produced food around the castle. Most of them had wells inside. You could try to cut off the water. But eventually when the food ran out, that was mainly the downfall at that point. And occasionally you would do probes in there and they would try to, you know, get over the castle walls as people became more malnourished, couldn't defend. And eventually, after weeks or months, sometimes even years, because, you know, some of those castles were vast underground corridors and whatnot. Sometimes there were even escape tunnels miles away that they found through a cave system or something that they could pop out and bring some resupply in until that was found and then cut off. So these sieges could last anywhere from weeks to years. But eventually the same outcome occurred. Now this would be the same. Now it looks like a lot of things in the food, the ability for us to grow food like fertilizers and herbicides, which I'm not a fan of. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's the way it's done now. Agribusiness is set up to be agribusiness and super giant, you know, 10,000 acre farms. It's the way it is. It's not going to change tomorrow. But 8 months ago, these fertilizer shortages were known that they were inbound. So I just don't understand why the world didn't get on it together like a Manhattan-style project and say, all right, all governments of the world, we need to start tweaking our infrastructure and supply chains to manufacture more fertilizers and get those out to the farmers. Now there's herbicide and pesticide shortages, both. Well, I mean, they're all running on the same supply chains and base ingredient, so you can see why all three of those are affected now. Now, the pesticides are going to start coming in later on. Not a lot of people are talking about pesticides at the moment, but they will once the crops are being devastated by hordes of XYZ insect. But if you wanted to siege our planet, you would do exactly what's happening now. You would cut off the food supply and the ability to move goods across oceans, because resupply is resupply. Go back to the 1500s. They did not let a single morsel of anything, no tools, nothing went into that castle, nothing. And then we see all these thousands, tens of thousands ships stuck off China waiting. Now that's going to bottleneck the entire world supply chain for a year or more until that's cleared out. So right there, you need, it's such a parallel what happened in the 1500s to what's happening today. And now if you knock out the legs of the monetary system where fiat money has no purchasing power anyway, you cut off the food supply. You cut off the implements for food. Oh wait, are all the tractor repair parts also lean right now or impossible to find? Oh yeah, you can't repair the tractors either. So now we got the farm inputs of the fertilizer, herbicide, pesticide, and the repair parts for the machines. And then wait, nothing else is coming to repair. So even if you had something on order and you're like, oh, hopefully we'll be here when, it's not coming this year. It's just not coming. China bottleneck's going to be there for a year or more. And all these fires and destruction of all the food processing facilities. I really think our world is under siege right now. There's all kind of things we could think about for preparedness. I do talk about these on Mini Ice Age Conversations podcast 30 minutes ago. And then one of the last ones I was doing here was shaping public opinion using the word rationing versus limit of 2, especially for infant formula meats and oils. And as always, thinking about storable foods, My Patriot Supply and Adapt 2030, 25-year shelf life, getting yourself more food prepared. And since we've seen so many disruptions in the food and it seems like it's amplifying, you might want to get more food. Just saying. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of the video, and I'll see you next time.
Direct my wrath. Consider it done.
Rainer here. Howdy. Sure thing.
Direct my wrath.
Have you on visual? Affirmative, sir. Yes, sir. Move it. Proceeding. What's up? No sweat. Rainer here. Transmit orders. Affirmative, sir. Go ahead, Commander.
I am ready. Indeed. I am ready. Consider it done. Indeed. For hire.
Receiving headquarters.
Your forces are under attack.
Executor.
Your forces
Direct
are
my
under
wrath.
attack.
This should be good. Anytime you're ready. No sweat.
Duras. Garon. Linkaslim. Jepakazol. We are vigilant. We are vigilant.
Transmit orders. Affirmative, sir. Let's roll. Excellent.
Your
Affirmative,
forces
sir.
are under attack.
Duras. Jepakazol. Garon.
Anytime you're ready. Oh yeah.
Direct my wrath. Jepakazol.
Your forces are under attack.
Right on. Anytime you're ready. Go ahead, Commander.
Your forces are under attack.
Galadul. Jepakazol. I concur.
Raider here. This is Jimmy. Right on.
Your forces are under attack.
This is Jimmy.
Hi, Ranger.
Base is under attack.
Oh yeah. Sounds fun.
Jepakazol.
Your forces are under attack.
Garon.
Base is under attack.
Anytime you're ready. Sounds fun. This is Jimmy.
Your forces are under attack. Base is under attack.
This is Jimmy.
Your forces are under attack.
Anytime you're ready. This should be good. I haven't got all day. What's up? All right.
Your forces are under attack. Your forces are under attack. Your forces are
Go
under
ahead,
attack.
Commander. Oh yeah. Howdy. Well. This is Jimmy.
Instructions.
Your forces are under attack.
Make up your mind.
Duras. Galadul. Garon. Linkaslim. Not enough energy. For Adon.
Well.
We feel your presence. Garon. Duras.
Rainer here. Right on.
Instructions. Affirmative.
forces are under attack.
Vigilant. Yes, your path. We are vigilant.
Your forces are under attack.
Make up your mind. Yep, all right. I haven't got all day.
Anytime you're ready.
Vigilant.
No sweat. Yep. No sweat. All right, sure thing. All right.
What?
Hey there. What's up? I'm going. Yep. All right. Sure thing. All right.
Yes, the Pakazol. Gabra.
Go ahead, Commander. Anytime you're ready. Raider here.
Your forces are under attack.
Presence. Gabra. Trust me.
Your forces are under attack.
Size of action.
Your forces are under attack. Your forces are under attack.
Should work. All right.
We are vigilant. Granadul. Trust me.
I haven't got all day. About time.
Your forces